2 o'clock, roll call. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo is absent. Rowe. Bagley. Mr. President is absent. Can we get a motion to elect a temporary chair, and a nomination and a motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Harding. Yes. Johnson. Yes. Melton. Yes. Rowe. Bagley. Aye. Motion passed 5-0.
If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we have comments from Councilmember Danny Begley.
Thank you. Please be seated. First, I want to recognize a special guest. Phila Medrano is here today. She was a student at Northern Alabama College. She grew up in Bellevue, went to St. Mary's Grade School, Bellevue West, and she chatted with me today just to see how the functions of government work. So can we give Bella a round of applause for endearing that? Also, as we know, there was a bad item at the Legacy Apartments in Northwest Omaha. There's a lot of people in need, as there is in the community beyond this, but I wanted to announce there's a phone number for people that I know was announced yesterday, that if they're looking for shelter that were displaced by this through no fault of their own, there's a phone number set up, 531-200-3500. And there's also a website if people want to donate money or anything to help the people that are displaced. The website is omahacommunityfoundation.org.
OmahaFoundation.org.
It's omahafoundation.org?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I had that written down wrong then.
I did too yesterday. I got corrected as well.
Okay, thank you. So it's omahafoundation.org. There's a lot of need in our community, and at Christmas, especially with the weather turning really bad, there's people that could appreciate any help you can give. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, and thank you for those comments. If I could just follow up with that, a special thank you to Heartland Family Services, who's just done an amazing job, jumped in at the last minute. I was out there for 2 hours yesterday, and I just want to say that hats off to them for all the work they're doing to make sure that everyone has a place to stay, minimum of 2 weeks of hotel until we can get them in to permanent housing. So there's funding available, but there's also people available, and I think that's really important for everyone to know. But I appreciate the suggestion for the donations, Councilman Begley. It's great that our entire city can kind of put their arms around everybody at Legacy Crossing. So thank you very much. All right.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
And as a reminder, I'd ask that everybody please turn off your cell phones during the meeting.
Items 6 through 9 can be considered together for Blue Stem Prairie, located north of Vernon and Forest Lawn Avenues. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. B's communication opposition. Item 6, an ordinance to rezone this property from R3 District, R4 District, and R6 District to R5 District. Item 7, an ordinance to approve an amendment to the future land use element of the master plan from open space and high-density residential to low-density residential. Item 8, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 9, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents?
Good afternoon. Ed Teal with Habitat for Humanity. I'm with Joe Zadina.
Hi, Joe Zadina with Lamper Nearson here to answer any questions.
And we need, we need your name and address.
I'm sorry, 1701 North 24th Street.
Sorry, Joe Zadina, Lamper Nearson, 14710 West Dodge Road.
Thank you very much. You're here to answer questions?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Seeing none. Any opponents? Seeing none. Second. Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. Close the public hearing.
Second. Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Items 10 through 14 can be considered together for High Point Replat 9, located southeast of Veterans Drive and 204th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Items 10 and 11, ordinances to rezone this property from R6 District to DR District and CC District. Item 12, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC Overlay District to incorporate this property into that district. Item 13, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 14, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
The public hearing on items 10 through 14 are here. Are there any proponents?
Good afternoon. Mark Johnson, 11440 West Center Road, appearing today on behalf of the applicant. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Items 15 through 19 can be considered together for Anchor Point, located northwest of 168th and Ida Streets. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. B is communication in opposition. Items 15 and 16, ordinances to rezone this property from AG District to DR District and MU District. Item 17, an ordinance to approve a mixed-use district development agreement. Item 18, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 19, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant and developer. This is a 20-acre mixed-use center on the northwest corner of 168th and Ida. So just here to answer any questions. This is the last and final phase of the development of Anchor Point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 20, an ordinance to rezone property located at 3031 Upland Parkway from R5 District to LC District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, close the public hearing.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 21, an ordinance to rezone property located northwest of 3rd and 4th Streets from R435 District to DR District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents?
Yes, hi. Katie Krisha, 4002 Seward Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68111.
And I'm Aaron French, same address, 4002 Seward Street, here representing City Sprouts, the applicant. We are City Sprouts, sorry.
Here to answer any questions.
Yeah.
And thank you. Are there any other proponents?
Joe Higgins, 1110 East Camden Avenue, Omaha. Levi Carter Sherman supports rezoning.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, close the public hearing. And I see that there's a light. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Hi, Aaron and
Hey.
Katie. Can you tell me and the group here what's going to go on here at this site?
Yeah, so this rezone from residential to development reserve for crop use production is to house our urban farm where we grow sustainable produce, have educational events, host our summer paid internship for high school age students, community groups. So that's sort of the big picture.
Okay.
This rezone specifically is so that we can continue our crop production and build a greenhouse and a small barn for tool and equipment storage. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good. What kind of outreach did you do in the neighborhood there?
Yeah, so we've tried really hard to connect with the folks right around the immediate blocks around our property, have great relationships with those neighbors. We've been really involved with Joe and the Levi Carter Sherman Neighborhood Association. We've been at the community events that they've hosted. We haven't done, mailings or anything like that. That's something we plan for this spring before we start construction.
Okay.
To kind of further engage the neighborhood as part of this process.
So will this be open to the public, and is there a cost associated with any of this?
No, so yeah, no cost. We host volunteer groups, tour groups, all for free. All of our produce goes for free to neighborhood and local food pantries through a partnership with the Food Bank for the Heartland, as well as to, neighbors just dropping produce off on their porch.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And so how will you fund this?
I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, so we have a mix of funding. So local funders, as well as some federal funding through the USDA and EPA and Department of Ag. And then just a mix of local family foundations and that sort of thing. Support both our internship and our food production. And also we do have funding from the United Way through their ARPA funding for our food production this year as well. But the greenhouse specifically will come through one of these USDA grants that we have. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And how soon would we see this making some type of headway?
Yeah, so this past year was our first year owning the property. We grew, between 10 and 15,000 pounds of food with zero infrastructure. And so we're really hoping that with the installation of this stuff in early spring, we can up that to 25,000 pounds, if not more. It does all depend on how building permits, inspections, all that goes, though. Yeah. So we're not totally sure. But
so you're planning on beginning production in 2023?
Beginning construction on some of these crop production buildings. So the greenhouse particularly, yeah. We've been operating this past year as a operating urban farm. So, yeah.
Wow. So will you do any with fish or aqua? What's that called? Yeah.
Not at this location, just because we don't have any indoor facilities yet. We hope to, long-term vision would be to have additional facilities on the property. But not at this stage of the project. So everything that we grow will primarily be outside at this time. Yeah.
Okay. And thank you so much. And I had a couple of questions for the planning department. Mr. Fanslow, there's been a lot of conversation in the community about displacement of people. With this rezoning, will anyone be forced to leave out of their home or vacate their home with this rezoning?
Dave Fanslow, City Planning, no.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of this. Awesome. Thank you so much for bringing this to the community. Certainly with the food desert that is very much common in District 2 and Omaha as a whole, this definitely will help kind of close those gaps in terms of having produce available to the area.
Thank you. That's our goal. Yeah.
Thank you. We really appreciate your support.
Thank you. I move that this resolution is approved.
All right, then there's another light on, Mr. Begley.
Thanks. Quick question for you. I'm looking at that location, 3rd and 4th. I work at the power company. Where is this located from the Omaha Center there?
Just,
is it west of it?
1 block west, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. I wish you the best of luck. I'm glad to support this today.
Awesome.
Just trying to get my bearings straight looking down there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's not a very trafficked area at the time.
Was that you're way too young for this, but there was a fruit stand down there 100 years ago, it seemed, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Is that where this is at?
So yeah, this land was historically truck farmed, so people grew produce there, trucked it down to the old market for sale, or sold it on the land. So that's part of our narrative, is kind of returning an area that was agricultural production to urban agriculture.
And I'm not going to ask either one of you how old you are, but I can guess that you weren't around when I was down there. So that's great. And you guys,
I did used to live about 2 blocks away for a little while.
Did you?
But
okay, and you understand the history. I truly appreciate that, and I'm glad to support Councilmember Johnson's support of this as well. So thank you for coming down today.
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you.
it, y'all. Yeah.
All right, no further lights. There was a motion and a second. Roll call.
Harding. Johnson. Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 22, an ordinance to rezone property located at 3066 and 3068 Belvedere Boulevard from R435 District to R5 District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
The public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents?
Ed Teal, Habitat for Humanity, 1701 North 24th Street.
And are you here just to answer any questions?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 23, an ordinance to rezone property located southwest of 186th Avenue and California Street from MU District to R8 District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents?
Thank you, Madam President. Brent Beller, 11440 West Center Road, on behalf of the applicant Urban Village. With me today is Laura Tarpinian with the developer, along with Larry Smith, our architect. This project is a request to rezone a piece of property that is currently under a mixed-use development agreement. We're proposing to rezone it to R8 for a multifamily development. We're out west, so here's West Dodge Expressway. This is 192nd. This is the Women's Hospital out on 192nd. The lot in question is right here. So this is a 4-acre lot located in the Five Fountains subdivision. So just to the north, if we can scroll out just a little bit. This is the Five Fountains residential subdivision. To the east, you have a large mixed-use area. There's a lot of car dealerships. There's some office. There's hotel. There's bank. A mixed-use development. You know, these lots right here are actually under contract or owned by a car dealership. They're right across the street from single-family residential, much like our lot. South of Dodge, obviously, is the R&R and Avenue 1 developments. It's important to note, so we had a neighborhood meeting that was well attended. There were some folks here at the planning board hearing, and so I do want to spend a little bit of time just talking about the historical nature of this lot because it's important. So our lot, which is lot 151 of the Five Fountains development, has always been there. So when they did their plat back in 2005, there's this lot. This lot was actually zoned R8, which is what we're asking today. So originally zoned R8. In 2010, a developer came in and rezoned it to mixed use. I think the idea was, we don't know, but they wanted to have a commercial component as well as a multifamily component. So as we sit today, anybody can come develop this lot as long as it complies with the mixed use development agreement that has a commercial component as well as the multifamily. And to be specific, it says 50% can be allowed for office and a minimum of 50% can be used for multifamily. So I mentioned that because during our neighborhood meeting, we tried to explain, and I do this a lot, so it makes sense to me, but anyone can come and develop this lot and do, based upon our zoning code and our master plan and the terms of the mixed use development agreement, if you do a floor of commercial and they do 3 floors of multifamily, and you could have 132 units, just like we're asking, you don't have to go to planning board. You don't have to come here in front of you all for those approvals. You can do that by right. The reality is Urban Village is a multifamily developer. They don't want to do commercial. We don't want to manage commercial. We know how to manage and operate multifamily. So our request to rezone it back to R8 is simply because we want to get rid of the commercial component. The important thing to also note, and I'm going to bring up that map I just had, is these streets. So these streets were all laid out, obviously, in 2005. They were designed by engineers. They were approved by the developer's engineers. They were approved by the city's engineers, as well as the counties. But these streets, California, HWS, 186th Avenue, were all designed with this lot being zoned R8 for multifamily. Which means that they can take the traffic that comes off our project, that sort of thing. And I mention that only because there were a lot of concerns from neighbors about we would be impacting the streets to the detriment because we would be increasing traffic flow, which I'll show in a moment. Our traffic counts are actually less than what you could do here today. The other thing to keep in mind is to the south, this roundabout, if you look to the east of us, this is actually a right-of-way. So that is supposed to be a future connection, an overpass for 186th Avenue. This is the same as 150th and Dodge. There's that connection from Boys Town going north into the single-family residential. The same concept is there. So I only mention that because these streets were designed for increased traffic, which I understand sometimes people don't like hearing, but that's just the reality. So This is the, as we sit today, this is what you could do. This is the mixed-use plan that's in the mixed-use development agreement. This proposal had 180,000 square feet of, as I mentioned, office and multifamily residential. With the mixed use, you go to the CC underlying zoning district, and so their setbacks are a little bit shorter than what R8 requires. I think it's a 15 in CC, and we have a 35. That's also with the ACI overlay. There's the plaza requirement under mixed use. We don't have that in R8. So our use is a little bit more, it's less intense, because the reality is under CC, you can have an 85% impervious coverage. We have 54 with our plan. For building coverage, you could have 65%. We have 19. So our use, our development of this lot for a multifamily development is far less intense than what you could do today. So we had a neighborhood meeting back on October 3rd. That was a month before we even went to planning board. And we presented two plans. One, we showed a plan that was compliant with the mixed use development agreement that showed 132 units with a single floor of commercial with 216 parking spaces. That's 79 underground. We're gonna have a podium building, 4 floors, and then 139 on stall. We had 2 access points, and then we complied with our setbacks, the plaza requirement, everything that you could do under the mixed use development agreement. We don't want to do this though, and so we explained that to the neighbors. That's not what we're proposing. We're actually proposing this. It's far less intense. It looks about the same, but what you get is obviously you get the ACI design guidelines as far as the building. The buildings we'll have to comply with all of our urban design standards. The setbacks, you'll have a 35-foot setback. There'll be a screening wall plus a landscaping berm that I'll show here in a moment. We proposed to just actually we had 2 entrances here, but in meeting with the neighbors, they said, hey, can you have 1 access point so that hopefully as people leave, they can go east, not generate as much traffic in the neighborhood. We're fine with that. Though after our meeting, I heard from a neighbor that they actually want to have 2 again. We're okay with that, as long as Public Works was okay with that. We also heard that neighbors wanted us to, as I mentioned, there's that right-of-way right here, to have some sort of cutout. Now, we can't acquire that because we don't have the financial capability, but their SIDs certainly can petition the city of Omaha. Even though I did talk to Public Works, and that's probably something they can't support right now just because we don't know what's going to go on with that future connection. But if we could get a curb cut out here and alleviate traffic and have it line up with 186th Ave to the north, we're supportive of that. But that's something to be kicked down the road. Some quick elevations, though, as to what we're building. So these elevations, let me scroll out just a little bit. This is looking east. Urban Village, I think we all know them. Jerry Reimer, Scott Samrad, local developers, all their products. It's here in Omaha. As far as developers, this is as good as our city gets. They do things by the book. They follow all the requirements. They build a good product. They stand by it. They self-manage. This is not anybody that just builds this and then leaves. This is a $35 million development. They care, and they're going into the 5 Fountain subdivision, which is a very nice subdivision. We've all seen it. And they want to be there. They want to attract people that work at the hospital, that work at the car dealerships. And so these are more high-end type units out in a nice subdivision in West Omaha. So, like I mentioned, we had a neighborhood meeting back on October 3rd. I purposely had that meeting well ahead of a month before our planning board meeting, just so that we could generate conversations with neighbors. I've done enough of these to know that, especially on multifamily projects, there should always be a little bit of a discourse. When we came out of that meeting, there were some concerns. One was traffic, and we explained that, hey, the current use is far more intense than our multifamily use. And so as part of that, we actually, don't take my word for it, we engaged Felsberg, Holton, Olvig, that they're a traffic engineer here in town. We had them do a traffic study, basically, that indicated potential traffic counts from the existing mixed-use development, if somebody was to do that today, and what the counts would be with what we're proposing. And as we had told, the counts show that our use is less intense. And they're less intense at critical points, which are when kids are going to school in the morning and when kids are walking home from school. Because the one thing I failed to show you was there is the West Dodge Station Middle School is right here. So I'm sorry, it's right there. So our lot's right here. West Dodge Station School is right there. So there are a lot of kids that go and they walk that way. So in any event, the AM peak, so these are the total counts. 970 for the multifamily and under the mixed use, 970, 966. So obviously this one's a little bit more than ours, but what really is important is those AM, PM peak counts. So folks coming into our development under the current mixed use plan, the counts are 73. So as kids are walking to school and we have people coming into the mixed use development, the traffic's 73 under the current plan. Under our plan, it's 14. So far less traffic coming into our project under the multifamily, strictly multifamily, versus if you were to do the existing zoning. The same is true. The out is a little bit different. So this is AM peak out. So there's 27 people leaving, 47. But again, that's traffic going with the children walking to school for a total of 100 versus 61. And the same is true for peak PM. So this is 4:30 to 5:30. And granted, most kids are walking home from school before 4:30. But coming into our project, 23. Coming in 47, so these are kids walking home with traffic, versus leaving our traffic during the peak. So this is people leaving ours as kids are walking home, 63 versus 27. So again, our traffic counts are far less impactful on the multifamily than if you were to stick with the current zoning. The other comment we got a lot about, which is unfortunate, but it's the reality, was our children are going to impact the West Dodge Station Elementary School, and it's going to cause too many kids at that school. I called Elkhorn Public Schools. I talked to the Assistant Superintendent Ryan Lindquist. Ryan Lindquist authorized me to be on the record today and at Planning Board to state Elkhorn Public Schools is completely on board with our project. They support it. Number two, they have already planned for children coming from our development to the elementary school. Ryan indicated that they had about 15 to 20% of our residents sending kids to their school. Based upon our own records, though, we have less than 5% of our tenants that have children that will go to the school. So the impacts are negligible. Ryan thought 20 kids from K to 8, but we won't even have that. And again, they support it. They've already programmed this in there. So no concerns from Elkhorn Public Schools. I talked about the entrances. We dealt with that. The other thing, and I'll try to be a little bit quicker, was a lot of folks had concerns about why here? Why do we have this site in a new subdivision in West Omaha? This never happens in Omaha, where we have multifamily on single-family residential projects. So I went and looked, and I pulled up a number of sites, excluding all the developments we have in North Omaha, all the developments we have in Central Omaha and South Omaha, and the Dundee area, where we have multifamily intermixed with single-family residential developments, where it works just fine and everyone gets along. But in any event, I pulled up some other sites. The first one that came to my mind was the Wycliffe development. This is 150th. This is 156th. This development has been here for at least 25 to 30 years. This is not a new concept. And as we talked about last week, and you all considered your affordable action plan, the reality is as our city spreads out west, developments like this are going to be more common. They're going to be more common in single-family residential subdivisions, and I completely understand that people aren't used to that, and this is new. If you come east, it's all over. But this is in West Omaha. In any event, this has been here for 20 to 30 years. Multifamily, utilizing single-family residential streets right next to, right along Dodge Street. Here's another one on Maple. This is 144th, 156th. Multifamily, utilizing single-family residential streets to access West Maple. Here's another one, 168th. You all just actually approved this. Single or multifamily using single-family. In any event, you get the point. There's a lot of them. We do it. It's not uncommon. We're not changing anything that we've not done in this city for decades, even though I do understand that it's new in certain parts of our city. So the other issue was parking. We're spending $35 million on this development. We want all of our residents, we intend all of our residents to park at our site. That's why we have 77 underground parking spaces. We have 139 parking spaces out on our lot. We have more than enough parking to contain all the activity going on our lot. Finally was multifamily would ruin valuation. I contacted the SID. This isn't an SID 523. Our valuation, $30 to $35 million, will actually lower the property taxes in this SID and all the residents that live in Five Fountains on a basis of $138 per $100,000 of valuation. So if you own a $600,000 house, which is generally what the homes are out there, your property taxes will go down about $900 a year from our development. Your levy will go from 65 cents, I think is what they are now, down to 50 cents. So from a valuation standpoint, the numbers don't lie. This actually supports all the residential valuations out there. The last issue, which comes up, and I get it, was this is going to be Section 8. I heard you all last week. We don't do any Section 8 housing here in Omaha. I think folks were talking about low-income housing. We are not utilizing low-income housing tax credits as part of this development. You can't use low-income housing tax credit projects after it's built because that's not how the low-income housing tax credit works. Urban Village has never applied to NIFA to do low-income housing. They're not qualified under their QAP. So needless to say, this is not going to be, there's no true affordable low-income concept on these houses. These are market rate homes that coincide with the rest of the folks that live in Five Fountains. So we had our neighborhood meeting on October 3rd. Between the month from October 3rd to November 5th or 7th when planning board was, I received no calls. I got 0 calls from any residents with any concerns. Folks did come to the planning board meeting. We had after the planning board approved it, we had a nice conversation out after the meeting, took questions. I had one follow-up after planning board, and that was in relation to what our screening wall looked like. And this is what it looks like. So for the folks that live on the north side of California Street, they want to make sure that street lights were not imposing on their homes. And so this is actually basically a 40-foot buffer. But the ACI requires that we'll have a 4-foot hedge there, in addition to a 4-foot landscaping berm to really keep the traffic lights at a minimum. But other than that, that was the only call that I received from any neighbors about this entire project. So we're excited to do this. This property has sat vacant for about 17 years, which usually tells us that the zoning wasn't right. I had at least 3 or 4 developers contact me to represent them on this project. Urban Village just happened to be the one that got it under contract. So we're excited to go to get started. Obviously, with the economy the way that it is, we can't pinpoint when we'll actually get started. But as soon as we get going, this is probably an 18 to 20 month construction period. So a cool project. We're going to see more of these in our city. But with that, it meets everything that our master plan requires. Comes before you with planning department's recommendation or approval, as well as the planning department or the planning boards. So with that, I'll sit down. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents?
Hi.
Hi, if you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Garrett Owen, 18708 California Street. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to just address a few things that this gentleman just covered off. And really, our concern is the traffic. We talked about that at the meeting in October. Unfortunately, I was out of town for the planning meeting. But the reality of it is if you look at the streets, and I'm not familiar with these machines, so pardon me. If you look at the streets, so this is Five Fountains neighborhood right here. The proposed rezoning is this little red 4-acre spot here. And notice that there's going to be 132 new residents in that little area as opposed to 140 throughout the entire neighborhood. So we're virtually going to double in size. The only exit to really come out of there is either out through California Street past the school or back up past the hospital out to 192nd. The California Street is a normal sized residential street. It's not wide. It's not set up to have high traffic area. Cleveland Street is a wider street, and actually 186th Street that runs north and south here is a little wider than a normal residential street. So I don't know if the initial intent of the city was that they would build this little dead-end street with ultimately an overpass, if that's the case, to handle traffic coming out of here. But as the way it sets now, it's all going to dump out onto California Street and affect the 8 houses and residents on that street alone. My wife and I bought the house 3 years ago. We knew that it was zoned for mixed use. We understand that. We understand that if there's businesses going on, they're going to go on in the normal 8 to 5 time frame. We could live with that influx of traffic and then additional houses or apartments across there. The reality of it is, though, the original plan that was there, I believe, was for 54 residents or apartments in addition to the businesses. Today, we're talking about 132. So our concern is that we have 5 access points to major exits. We have Western Avenue, we have Cleveland. This exits into another neighborhood as well as number 5 on California, and then 2 goes into Silver Leaf to the north. We're not increasing the number of exits, but we are doubling the size of our neighborhood. I ask that the city council please reconsider this rezoning, or at very least try and figure out how we can utilize this intersection right here. If there's a way to utilize this intersection right here, it funnels all this traffic up here to a 4-way stop and gives an opportunity for people to make a safe choice on which direction they turn. I also just brought a few pictures of what actually happens, and these pictures were taken after we received the notice of the meeting in October. So what I did is down at the bottom of the hill where the first initial exit was intended, down here, I took this first picture. So you can see up at the top of the hill, that light right there is actually at the top of that intersection. So to put things in perspective, sorry about this. This is up at the top of the hill. So here's the intersection right here. That's that same street light. Notice all the cars here, which you couldn't see in the previous picture, just 4 houses back down the hill, are people lined up, this is a Sunday, to play softball in October. This field right here is utilized by kids playing softball, baseball, all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and they practice scattered throughout the week from virtually April through October. Here you can see the school. At that intersection, I wanted to be fair and look down the street and see what 186th Avenue looks like. That gives you perspective there. You can notice that this street looks a little wider. And then this is just a picture from down at the bottom of the hill, looking back up. Notice that the majority of the cars are actually parked up over on the curb. The street could accommodate 3 vehicles, although realistically, any traffic of any magnitude coming through here is going to create some issues, let alone children just jumping out between the cars. So if there was a stop sign at the top of the hill here where people can make a conscious decision of which direction they're going in and understand the traffic that's ahead of them, that would be ideal. So again, if there's any way possible for the council to figure out how to make an intersection right here, a 4-way intersection, that would be ideal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other opponents?
Luke Schroer, 22 South 33rd Street. I did speak at the planning meeting about this, and I noticed in the printout for those meeting notes, it was a little bit diet what I said, so I just wanted to add more context to what I said. What's printed is that I appeared before the board. I stated that we used to build cities with neighborhoods and public transportation as opposed to suburban sprawl, and that's where it stops. But one of my main points that I was trying to get across was with our suburban sprawl, it's all housing. It's a lot of residential, single-family residential sprawl. And the mixed use is actually going to be a tool that we can use to fix a lot of our traffic problems that we have within that sprawl. So the thinking is, if you have people living above places to work, you don't need to drive, and it creates less traffic on those roads, hopefully. Those corner coffee shops, those bookstores, those commercial things that you have underneath residential, you can have opportunities for those neighborhoods, all that suburban sprawl, all those people on the cul-de-sacs can come down to a local coffee shop, and you have those interactions with your neighbors, and you get that sense of community back. So I do encourage more density throughout the city, but I think we're losing something by taking it from a mixed-use development and going all in on just the residential. So I have a love-hate with this one, and I just want to give more context because I feel like it was a little bit more diluted down than what I said that day. And if you ever want to understand kind of where I'm coming from, I cannot recommend enough. Not Just Bikes is a YouTube channel, and that man can explain things a lot better. So I encourage you in your free time to look that up, and that might help give context to some of the ideas I keep bringing to you all these weeks. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Applicant an opportunity for rebuttal if they need, so
Absolutely.
Actually I'll ask Mr. Beller if he'd like to do that at this point.
Brent Beller, 11440 West Center Road. To the first gentleman, our traffic analysis, again, indicates that what we're proposing is far less impactful than what you can do under a mixed-use agreement that's currently in place. These are the International Traffic Engineer standards. I don't prepare them. International traffic engineers do. These are the same standards that our city, our private engineers all live by. Going back to my original point, and this is why I touched on it, these streets were all designed for this lot 151, that was originally zoned R8, which is exactly what we're asking for. Were designed knowing that a multifamily development would come on here. I don't design streets. Engineers design streets. These streets were designed to take the traffic from the hospital, take the traffic from the mixed use, take all the traffic from 150 single family lots, which 150, I'm sure there's more than one driver in each of those homes, so it's probably more than 150. But the reality is this is how we design streets. And so they were designed with all this in mind. It's not as though we're doing something that was not originally proposed. I actually talked to the attorney that represents both the SID and the developer originally. And there's a reason why Lot 51 is not in the covenants, and that's because they always recognized that this lot would be a multifamily lot, and these streets were all designed to take that traffic. We did talk about this a lot at the planning board, and as we understand, there is some use on that baseball field, but I can't, and my client can't control where people park and how they park. I did advise them, and after the planning board meeting, talk to your SID engineer. They can petition the county to put no parking signs anywhere in here to alleviate some of the parking issues that they have during softball and baseball use. Also, they should talk to Elkhorn Public Schools about using their parking lot for those events. So again, we are completely supportive if there was a way to use that right away. But as far as I know, and I don't want to put anybody in Public Works, that's not something the city is currently in position to support. If the city ever changes their mind, we're in support of it too. We would do that because I agree, lining that connection up and alleviating the second entrance, I do think makes a lot of sense. But also, I understand that that's the city's prerogative, and if they don't want to vacate a right-of-way that currently is not needed to vacate. So I think I answered the questions. If I didn't, I'm happy to explain further.
Let me kind of go down that route a little bit. So if now leave that up if you could. If at a later point in time, access could be to the east, you would commit on the record that you would reconfigure your parking area for access onto that site or onto that access point?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just a couple comments as I go through this, and I was following this through the planning board too, and actually had some communication with Mr. Owen, mostly through some emails, but I think we spoke on the phone once as well too. But it's an interesting situation. You can sit down if you want, Mr. Bell. Interesting situation in that, as has been pointed out, I mean, when this was originally platted, it was with the R8 zoning in place, and so then the streets and the engineering associated with that were all done such that it anticipated that kind of a development, and that if, as was pointed out too, is if the developer wanted to come in today and develop this with the commercial on the first floor, they could do the same number of units on top of the first floor. And actually, as I think was pointed out by the traffic counts, would actually make it more impactful on the neighborhood. So by not having the commercial component to this, I think addresses some of that issue. The ACI, obviously, overlay will have a higher level of building materials and landscaping, as well as the setbacks associated with the residential zoning, as was pointed out, is, I think, a benefit as well, too. And the berming with the acknowledgement of trying to work with the neighbors to the north so that they're not getting headlights into their living rooms, I think is obviously a bonus, too. And then, as was pointed out, this increases the impervious coverage with a commercial, and we'll hear a little bit about this maybe later on in another case about talking about impervious coverage, but taking it to the residential zoning versus that with the commercial underlying zoning on the mixed use, again, increases the amount of impervious coverage. I'm not sure I kind of completely understood where it sounds like maybe some of the neighbors want 2 access points, some want 1. I'm not sure how you're going to resolve that going forward, but I think the developers at least stated that they're willing to have that conversation with the neighborhood as long as Public Works is okay with that. Let's see, you brought up that there's going to be more than 1 parking stall per door, the property tax reduction to the SID, and I should point out too that this is not within the city of Omaha. It is an SID, but our zoning jurisdiction, since it's in the extraterritorial area, that's what not overrules, but that's what's applied here. One other example that you brought up kind of quickly, Mr. Beller, about a similar type of development was Wycliffe, and not only was the proximity of Wycliffe to the 156th Street, much as this is to 192nd Street, but there's actually associated with the church, and I can't remember the name of the church that's in between Wycliffe Apartments and 156, but there's a school, a rather large school associated with that church there too. So again, I think demonstrating that those two can live next door to each other. I think I covered the city and county issue as well. So it is an interesting conundrum, really, is that without the commercial development, this could happen today by just applying with the permit. So I'm trying to be sensitive to the concerns that Mr. Owen and others in Five Fountains expressed on this. But I think I know the developer will deliver a quality product, and that obviously I think has been demonstrating that they're willing to work with the neighbors as well going forward. So I think it'll be a good project for the neighborhood. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. There's no further lights, then the public hearing's been closed. All right, I'll second. Roll call.
Harding. Johnson. Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 24, an ordinance to rezone property located at 5601 Leavenworth Street from R435 District and R535 District to R5 District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents?
Hi, I'm Caleb Van Wielden with Lamper and Earson, 147110. I'm here to answer any questions you may have, and I am here with the applicant.
Madam President, members of the council, I'm Gary Gurnett, 1702 Ontario Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68108. I'm the chairman of the Board of Trustees for Mount Calvary Lutheran Church, the applicant. We request your approval, and I'll be available for questions as well.
Thank you. Good to see you back here. Are there any more proponents? Are there any opponents?
Madam President, City Council members, Jen Bauer, 5501 Leavenworth Street. I'm an impacted neighbor by this project, and you're going to have to bear with me because I am not familiar with this tool. But this proposed project, when it was brought to our neighborhood and to the neighbors, 3 neighbors wrote letters to the planning board, and 3 neighbors attended the planning board meeting, each with specific concerns about safety, impervious coverage, and the traffic flows that this project will allow. I understand this is just about the zoning, and the zoning would remove the, I think it's right here, is this house. So this is the lot, if I'm not mistaken, that would change from R6 to R5. This is Midtown, this is Leavenworth, right? 6 Arvin Elwyn Park Neighborhood Association. Directly across the street is Dundee Memorial Park. This goes against what the city is looking towards for urban infill and affordable housing. There's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house on this lot that is habitable, has been inhabited. The church was supposed to have security on site due to this very large parking lot in the back, where we already have issues with safety, people parking, loud parties, whatnot. Specific to the planning department's findings, if you review the backup that is attached in the meeting minutes for the council agenda today, there's no mention of my email. There's no mention of the other 2 emails. There's mention of 1 person attending that meeting, and that was Amber Davis. She's out of the country right now. We talk about the items specific on the planning department, which we have issues with. I wrote a letter to the city council on Sunday outlining those issues very clearly. I don't care about the parking lot, right? We want to put, if the church wants to build a parking lot, they can build a parking lot. But to remove the zoning so that they can make this one big lot just flies in the face of the progress that this city is making towards residential, development. The problem with this is it's the 2nd house that this church has demolished or will demolish. This is a shrinking congregation. I don't take any solace in the fact that I'm saying that. It's 100 members. And now we know we have more parking and no longer have on-site security. You're going to create a pass-through back to Marcy Street with a gate that could be jumped or run through because it looks like a cattle gate. I just don't see where this change is in line with what the city is planning going forward. And I think we need to think about our future, our green space, and housing in the Exarban area. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents?
Good afternoon, Larry Storer, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, 68132. I'm opposed to this because I sort of smell that it's coming up with a TIF project pretty soon. I like my neighborhood and I like that neighborhood. I go through there a lot. And like the lady just said, we're losing our green space, we're losing our skyline because of these big TIF projects. I can't fight City Hall and I can't fight the Reader magazine. But Omaha does have a problem with favoring single-family homes, and we like it that way. I'm going to submit a Reader magazine article. I don't know why, but the Reader magazine and community newspapers seem to get all this information that we don't. They must be getting a lot of it from you people, but you never talk about it here. So it's time to kind of put a damper on some of this. What usually happens is there's a zoning change, and then all of a sudden there's a couple of houses that are vacant, and there's some things posted on it that say danger closed or private property. The most recent one I've seen, and this is all done before there's a vote, by the way. So it's all decided before it even comes here. It's decided in the planning department, which most people don't even hear about, don't know anything about it. This is a rubber stamp process. So pretty soon there'll be a couple of houses, maybe a whole block, like on Douglas Street right behind your big development on Dodge. 10 houses in a row that are small, very affordable looking houses. They don't look like they've been blighted or torn apart after they've been boarded up for a while, yeah. But I wonder if a developer actually paid them fair value for all those 10 houses in a row. That sounds kind of fishy to me. But you'll get your Dodge Street and your Harney Street projects done regardless of what citizens think. These are areas much like my street. And by the way, you are working on Saddle Creek to Country Club Avenue, which is getting pretty close to me. One thing that's not said in a lot of the documents, but it is said in the Reader magazine and things, is that people that live in these districts will probably get special assessments. Probably their property taxes will go up because a developer gets a blighted value on whatever property they're going to destroy.
Mr.
And he
Short,
pays that.
we're going to stick to number 24. This is about a parking lot on
Thank you, ma'am.
one lot.
This is what it's going to lead to, though. You're up the street from it right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other opponents? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Mr. Begley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Councilmember Melton. Gary or Caleb, I guess, some questions for you. There was a lot covered, and Ms. Bauer referenced. Jen, I did get all your attachments and emails that you sent. It was sent over to all of us from the clerk, so I know that all the council got them, so thanks. I got them all right here. I really do, and I read them. So I'm going to try to walk through a little bit of your concerns, Caleb. First of all, if you want to just lay out the plan here again, you're going to take the house down and you want to put a parking lot. You guys own the house on the property to the east of the church, correct?
You are correct, Caleb Van Wilden, Lamper Nearson.
Okay, and I'm in no particular order. Ms. Bauer had a lot of different questions that I'm going to try to have you guys walk me through here. So is your plan here to have a parking lot go from the east part of the church where you bulldoze the church, the house, and exit to the back on Marcy Street? So it'll be a full through the parking lot.
The plan is to have limited access between the existing parking lot to the south and the proposed parking lot to the north. We talked about this heavily during the planning meeting, that this access would operate in conjunction with when the church is in operation. So the gate would be open when church is meeting on Sundays or Wednesday nights. The gate will be closed and locked the remainder of the time. If there is damage that were to occur to the gate, as was mentioned earlier, if someone were to run through it with their car, that'd be just like any other property damage that could occur on the lot. Obviously, that's not something the church can control.
Is that gates on both the north and south side of the lot, so on Leavenworth and Marcy?
Nope, it is one right here in the middle, just to this connector drive. So there'd be one single gate that would be operational at the same hours the church is operational. So you could park on the north side, you could park on the south side. This gate is just alleviating a little bit of congestion issues the church feels like it has during normal operation hours.
One of the asks I know in a lot of the different items pointed out in the emails that I got, I know a few years ago, it's my understanding that on the west side, you guys put that parking lot in there, correct? There was a house that was removed there and the parking lot was put in?
Correct.
And there is, and in pre-council this morning, when I met you up there, Mr. Gurnett, maybe about 4 or 6 weeks ago, I didn't have recollection that lot does not go through on the west side, correct?
Gary Gurnett, that's correct.
Okay, and when I went there over the weekend, and I ran by after pre-council today, and I looked from the south side, so I got a better understanding, and we asked for, I think one of our city engineers has an overview map that'll show that. So at that time when you guys did that, were you there, Mr. Gurnett, at the
Yes.
church? Okay. And was there any compromise to have that blockaded so you can't cut through all the way to the back when that happened?
Yes.
Okay. Would you have any objection to that now on this, if that was part of this plan? I'm just curious to see what your thoughts were on that, why it's different
Yes,
now.
we would. Coming into the lot off of Marcy Street, if that lot happens to be full, they would now have access to go over to the north lot, which we're trying to build here. And if that lot fills, they'd have the same option to go over to the south lot and park. And then they could either exit off of onto Marcy Street or back onto Leavenworth Street.
Okay, and with this, and again, I appreciate you walking me through this, the west lot is gonna stay the same. As you were asking today, that east lot would go from Leavenworth to Marcy Street all the way through, and then you would have a fence. If I was understanding, would that be in the middle of the lot that you would put up, or would it be on the entrance or exit?
It would be right at where the new lot will connect with the south lot. That's where it would be.
Do you have a picture of that besides that right there? Just help me understand what we're looking at here. What are you pointing at right there? Where's Leavenworth?
Leavenworth Street is right here.
Okay.
This is what we're proposing for the new lot.
All right.
And they would go to the south lot, which is over here near Marcy Street, and the gate would be right here. It's right at the corner of the building of our former school.
Okay, more off of Marcy Street then. A little off the Marcy side, I guess.
This is Marcy Street
Yep.
here. This is our existing south lot. Traffic could come through here. If this is full during a service, they could go over to the north lot on the Leavenworth Street side, and same reverse. If this lot gets full, they could come over here.
Okay.
In regards to your question, sir, on the west lot, it was designed, Omaha Public Power District put in a large transformer about the size of this podium a number of years, at the time in 2004, and that and parking standards are there, which prohibits cars from going from Leavenworth over to Marcy Street.
Okay. And how about landscaping, greenscaping with this proposal today? What is that gonna look like for what you're designing here?
So we have worked with City of Omaha staff. We went to a pre-app meeting, we submitted a site plan review form. We've already been to ABA and ZBA. We have a major amendment to the conditional use permit, which have all been approved to date. So we have gone through several processes here. The proposed landscape plan is as shown. There was one comment on the major amendment to the conditional use permit to basically tighten up a landscape screening wall, which just means increase the density, the closeness of the plants together. I actually have an email from City of Omaha staff that I referenced if this needs to be brought up or changed or approved or reviewed in any way before this meeting today. They told me it did not. This will get looked at again as we submit a parking lot permit for construction in the future. That has not happened yet. We wanted to get through all of our entitlements first, and then we will proceed through the proper channels to make sure the landscaping meets the conformance to the city code.
I appreciate you confirming that. I know we're the cart before the horse, but these moving parts, it's kind of
understood.
important to kind of flush this out. So it was brought up about security concerns with the house that's being demolished. Can you comment on that, Mr. Gurnett, that is there ever congregations of people, teenagers or what have you, doing whatever they do in the parking lots? Have you had any reports of that?
We've had some incidents reported over the last, well, I've been there 31 years, and we've had a few incidents where after dark, we'd have some people gathering, and we would call the police, and usually they would leave. We tried to get that program the police department has called closed property, but it did not pass muster on our church council. But I plan on working on that again.
I understand you might have a little knowledge of that from your background. So
I've got a couple hours worth of knowledge on that, yes.
I think that'll come in handy when you do that. Thank you, gentlemen. A couple of questions for Mr. Fanslow.
Dave Fanslow, City Planning.
Dave, so this went through the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals before it got before us here today, correct?
Correct. It went to Planning Board on November 2nd, and then the following week it went to ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, for the impervious coverage waiver on November 10th.
Can you, thank you for that. Can you talk about that impervious coverage? Does this, when it went through the Zoning Board of Appeals, that granted it to 72%, correct?
Correct. So we talked a little bit beforehand. Civic uses in low-density residential districts, some civic uses. It's difficult to meet those impervious coverage minimums on in the code, or maximums in the code, because of the parking and the other infrastructure that goes along with the site. So when you have low-density residential zoning, which this is an allowed use via the conditional use permit, that's why I went to Planning Board in the first place, along with the rezoning. It's hard to meet some of those site development regulators, so we often see and are supportive of those Zoning Board of Appeals waivers for impervious coverage for those types of uses.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And one other question I had, and this might have been answered by your staff, but I'll put you on the spot
Sure.
anyway. One of the emails I had a question, there's a church on the north side of Leavenworth that it was said to me that this church asked several years ago and refused to add onto their parking lot. Are you aware of any, and again, I hate to put you on the
That's
spot,
okay.
but of any records, of any requests for application or discussion to add on to the parking lot? In the church I'm talking about is on the
I know.
55th, and I think it's Lifegate Church.
I know the one you're talking about. So I obviously can't speak to past conversations that might have happened, because I don't know if they happened, or I surely don't know who they talked to in the past. But we checked our records this morning, and we found no case history on that site that would have proposed a parking lot on that site.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Fanslow.
You're welcome.
Jen, you got a moment to come up? Did you have any questions regarding what was discussed by Mr. Gurnett and Caleb in here?
I do. Again, we did not address the fact that we had on-site security before, and now it's going to be taken away because the house is being taken away. We did not address the fact that the parking lot and the on-street parking are never full. And I know this because on the corner of 55th and Leavenworth is my house. I am impacted by both Lifegate Church and by the overspill parking from Mount Calvary. There is a member of their church that blocks the end of my driveway 90% of the time on every Sunday. He gets there at 8:30 in the morning. He leaves at 11:30. It's a fact of life. But the church parking lot itself in the back, the south, is never completely full. Also, I would like to present a picture which I took today. Oh yeah, that's not gonna work, is it? So, well, you can't see. So there's the school, right? And this is where the parking lot is going to go. Take my finger away. What you can't see is that right now there are 3 or 4 orange cones and a car and a pod type of item, which is separating that back parking lot from the proposed area where the playground was removed, etc. What you do see is the school, which was shuttered in 2014 because the school had a total of 58 students and could not support the school any longer. I still stand by the fact that this is a shrinking community church that doesn't need to remove a house that could be sold or utilized in some other way. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple quick comments. So we covered the impervious coverage. Is there somebody from City Public Works that can speak to the traffic concerns that were brought up? Is Ryan here? There he is.
Ryan Haas with Public Works.
Ryan, good afternoon. Thanks for being here today.
Sure.
Can you discuss any concerns in your professional opinion on traffic issues if this parking lot is put in from Leavenworth to Marcy Street here?
Well, the things we look at are things like the impact of the change in traffic patterns. We just don't see a lot of impact from churches generally, and that's because their peak times do not coincide with the peak times of overall traffic. There's just not a lot of traffic on Sunday mornings, Wednesday evenings. So the proposed project fell well short of any threshold that we would have looked at as far as requiring a traffic study. It's actually the city's preference on parking lots to do everything we can to facilitate the internal circulation within the parking lot itself, and not, it's actually kind of counter to some of our goals to separate them into multiple parking lots, because then some of that circulation would have to use the city streets again in order to go from one parking lot to the next if one is full. So we like to see those internal connections. That helps just keep turning movements off of those major streets like Leavenworth Street. So that was our analysis, that we certainly encouraged the connection of the parking lots to allow for that internal circulation. And then it sounds like they worked out an arrangement where they agreed to the gate for all other times to prevent anyone from cutting through between the two public streets, Leavenworth to Marcy.
So in your analysis there, it is safer to have that cut through instead of, if I'm coming off Leavenworth and then I want to leave, there's only one exit out. You're saying it's better to have the two exits for safety reasons?
Yeah, it's better to keep, especially if one lot is full and you go into that lot with the internal connection, you can go to the other lot just by driving through the connection and not having to go directly back out onto Leavenworth Street, make a turn down on 55th, another turn onto Marcy. It's just better to keep that circulation internal.
Okay, thanks,
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah, you bet.
Ms. Melton, I got a couple more questions. I want to get there. I appreciate your patience.
No problem.
Mr. Gurnett or Caleb, a question was brought up about security issues. And you talked about that you know, if there's kids or whatever from time to time that are in there. Was there a person that was living in that house that did the security, or what did that person do that was living there before they left?
Gary Gurnett, 1702 Ontario. We had one of our trustees was occupying the house, and he was a security officer, and one of his duties was to check our property once he got off work from his shift, making sure the doors are locked and things of those types.
Okay, and I know Jen is in here today on behalf of her neighborhood association, that she does a great job of representing, but also John Ashford that is in here today that represents Elmwood Park to the north, Dundee Elmwood Park. You understand outreach to the neighborhood associations, if you know there's security concerns, you don't have any objection working with the neighborhood associations. If there's issues, you can even email my office. If you know, Jen knows this from being a neighborhood president, that if there's issues that arise like this, now if the house is gone, that person's not going to be there anymore, that we would have an avenue to at least let the Omaha Police Department know. Kids or whoever may be congregating here from time to time, we can keep an eye on it. You wouldn't have any problem reaching out to the neighborhood presidents or myself if that's ever an issue, would you?
Absolutely none. In fact, I made that crystal clear to Jen in her dining room and her two cats when I visited with them, and also when I visited with their neighborhood association at their general membership meeting. And also gave the same presentation to the Dundee Memorial Park Neighborhood Association, John's group, and there was support there as well.
Okay, thank you. The last question I got is, I think, for Mr. Fanslaw one more time. So this council, we went through a housing affordable action plan debate a couple of weeks ago. Dave, can you confirm for me what the city is pledging to invest in affordable housing?
If my memory serves me correctly, we've pooled about $60 million.
Well, that's my memory too, so we're both wrong, but I know
I
you're
think
right
we're right.
on that. So Jen brought up a good point about affordable housing. that we don't want to remove houses, but this is on a private property, and we aren't neglecting our duty that we heard loud and clear in the last 2 years, not only in Omaha, but elsewhere, about the challenges of affordable housing for people in the city. So in looking at this, I am going to vote to support this today because I think they'll, at the end of the day, with the safety issues, the impervious coverage, I know there's neighbors that aren't happy about it, but this is private property that the church owns, and whatever decision you made on this house that you want to remove it, I'll support that today. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no more lights. Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
All right, roll call.
Harding. Johnson. Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 25, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC overlay district to incorporate into that district the property located at 4200 North 204th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
We'll open the public hearing. Are there any proponents? No proponents, seeing none. Are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. I'll second. Roll call.
Harding. Johnson. Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. One public hearing can be held for Class B liquor licenses for Family Dollar located at 1725 South 13th Street, 2601 North 16th Street, 8260 Grover Street, 6618 North 30th Street. A's Communications in opposition, B's Communication.
All right, thank you. We're going to open the public hearing. Are there any proponents? I believe our proponent may be by Zoom. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam President, James Balley here. And now is the appropriate time. I can begin. For the record, James Balley with Decisions Consulting. Address is 1100 Circle 75 Parkway, Suite 210, Atlanta, Georgia. Decisions Consulting represents Family Dollar nationwide on their alcohol licensing. And the first one on the agenda here today is the one at 1725 South 13th Street. This matter was continued from last week's council meeting. There were some questions regarding some possible litter on the site, and we were asked to address that. And so what I have done, and hopefully you received these, I sent earlier today. I know there's 4 locations, so it's easy to get them mixed up, but I sent an email with pictures in order in which they appear on the calendar. And there was a question made by Councilman Palermo at the last hearing that wanted to know how many Family Dollars were licensed currently to sell alcohol in both the city and in the state of Nebraska. And in the email, we identified there are 10 currently in the state of Nebraska. There are others who have been approved, but the licenses have not issued. And there are 2 locations in the city of Omaha that are currently licensed, and we identified those as 4310 Ames Avenue, which is Councilwoman Johnson's district, and 5135 South 36th Street, which is Councilman Palermo's district. But directing attention back toward the store that's currently in front of you, there was a question as to whether there was litter on the property and a possible couch that had been illegally dumped on the property. We were asked to go back out and look at that because there was a question on where our property line was and where was the items actually located. In the email that you were sent in the first set of pictures, you'll see pictures taken this week at the front of the store. Also, you go to the second page, there was a question about a sofa. The sofa that may have been in question is not located on our property, and you can see on that second picture is up the hill behind a fence and on someone else's property. We would obviously love for that to be removed, but can't control what someone is doing on their own property that's not ours. There's some other pictures that show the side of the store, the parking areas, and the rear by the dumpsters, along with the side picture by the dumpsters. And I think you can see from those pictures that if there was an issue with litter before, it certainly doesn't appear to be there now. We contacted the store and pressed upon them the importance on making sure that the area is kept clean. And we intend to ensure that they continue to do that. I'm happy to go back through some of the points that I made at the original hearing, and I've supplied support letters and business description letters that will apply to all of these locations. But and of course, I'm happy to answer any additional questions. But I did want to just reiterate that all of the internal controls, the video surveillance, the zero tolerance, and the deluxe training that we provide our associates. Again, nationwide, our violation rate is 0.004%. We are proud of that, but want to get it even lower. And what we're basically before you today to ask for permission to sell beer to go. It's been our experience that the customer that we service with this is family friendly, or family members stopping to get beer to take home to enjoy with when they're grilling or with a meal. We don't service customers who are intent on coming in and buying hard liquor or trying to purchase liquor intoxicated or otherwise trying to loiter on the premises. We have a zero tolerance for that as well. And we found that when we add this, we find no measurable increased police calls of any sort. And we found that if you don't shop there at that location, you basically will not be able to tell any difference from the ongoing operations. And we believe that that program and our commitment to the neighborhood and the customers that we service allows us, if approved, to operate in a manner as set forth in your code that is beneficial to and compatible with the public interest. So I would yield now for any questions, and I'm happy to go into more detail as needed or requested. Thank you, Madam President and City Council.
Well, thank you. And thanks for reminding me, by the way, for all the rest of you, I am just a temporary chair. So I'm actually not even the temporary president. So just Councilwoman Melton or Ms. Melton is just fine today. So I just don't want to take on a position that isn't actually mine. But with that, thank you for your comments. Are there any other proponents? All right, seeing none, are there any opponents?
Thank you very much. Mitch Strong, Habitat for Humanity, 1701 North 24th Street. I'm the outreach coordinator, neighborhood revitalization coordinator at Habitat for Humanity. I don't build homes. I tried that. It's not good. My job is to build safer communities, safe communities in Omaha, in North Omaha, South Omaha, everywhere where Habitat builds a home. I want to make sure that my focus is on the greater community, not just the Habitat home. 2023 and 2024, my main focus with Habitat is on mental health. And that's mental health for just young kids that we see doing a lot of things in North Omaha that, we try to fight against. And a lot of it goes back to mental health. Veterans, mental health. The shelter that's right behind Habitat, mental health. But one of the things that worsens mental health is alcohol. And making alcohol easy to buy in Family Dollars, it's horrible. And it's one of these headwinds that I find myself fighting against a lot being at Habitat for Humanity. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. They'll probably pass, who knows. But I want to make sure that I can still do this fight for mental health, awareness for mental health, despite alcohol going to Family Dollars. I don't want that, of course, but I don't have that much control. So how can maybe even Family Dollar help us, help the community? If they're serving alcohol, we get it all the time at Habitat for Humanity, right outside, that because of the shelter, we have a lot of alcohol bottles, and it has nothing to do with Family Dollar. But now we're making it easier for these people to get alcohol. And again, if we're trying to help them, including people in the shelter, Sienna Francis House, if we're trying to help them and making alcohol easy for them to get to at a Family Dollar right up the street on, I think it's North 16th Street, 17th Street, it's just going to be hard. So I would love everybody to help me out and help the people in Omaha and help the people in North Omaha, help the people around Sienna Francis. And Family Dollar can do the same thing. They're talking about the fact that they're helping their employees deal with this, but, help the community. And if you're going to serve alcohol there, help me out. Help me help them.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other opponents? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Begley, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Councilmember Melton. Mr. Bally, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I can.
You referenced the email that you sent. Okay, you said you can hear us, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon. I made a motion to lay over the store located at 1725 South 13th Street. And if I heard your remarks right, I can tell you my own eyes that I went through there last week, and I've been by there including this morning. And it looks like the north side of the building where there was trash has been picked up. I don't know who picked that up. But you reference a couch, and I want to read your email that you sent. In order of appearance on the calendar, I have attached labeled pictures of all 4 locations. Note, the 1725 South 13th Street store, conversation from last week, does have a couch that is located on someone else's property on a hill behind a fence. Okay, so is it your position that even though I pull in your lot or anybody that comes to the Family Dollar store there's a huge couch on the hill right next to your parking lot that everybody sees? If they pull in that lot or you're driving on 13th Street, it's a sore thumb. So is it your position, if I'm hearing you, and I want to ask you directly, that it's not on your property, as you said in the email, so you're not going to remove it? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir. I was simply saying that we don't have the right to do it without further permission. And we certainly are interested in keeping areas clean, but for liability reasons and other matters, we would need to get written permission from whomever controls that property to do so. And I'm exactly with you. We do not want people placing litter or doing illegal dumping anywhere near our property, because we want it to look good for customers and passersby alike. So we're not saying we will not, but it would take additional permission from whomever owns that property, or any kind of inquiry with regard to who put it there and whether we're permitted to do it. The way we remove stuff like that that's illegally dumped is we have to put in a work order, and then a third party comes and removes it, which is what we did when we get the second one on the agenda. But no, we're not saying we won't. We would just need permission from whomever controls that, or a notice that it was illegal dumped, and we're allowed to come on there and remove it.
Okay, I appreciate you clarifying that for me. So the next question I have, correct me if I'm wrong, you're in Atlanta, Georgia right now, correct? The ATL?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
Okay, so is there anybody from Family Dollar? There's neighborhood associations, there's Dolman Park, there's Lynch Park. Do you guys, even though you're in Atlanta, you're a corporate national brand, do you guys have outreach to the neighborhood associations? You talk specifically about this couch is on private property, but again, everybody in the world sees it. I'm not blaming you or Family Dollar for somebody illegally dumping. My question is, do you do outreach to the neighbors? How are you gonna, what is your process to remove that couch?
If it was something going forward, what we would need to do is notify or try to determine from the tax records who owns that property. And then obviously if we have a neighborhood association that's involved and could provide some assistance with that, our goal would be to get it removed and not have a bunch of bureaucratic red tape. With that being said, we do have certain things we have to follow, but we would welcome the opportunity for anyone in a neighborhood association to assist with determining the best method to get this removed to the extent whoever owns it would provide permission.
Okay, and I mean, that's the neighborhood associations there, and you're in Atlanta. You mentioned that you train your associates in the store. Are they salaried or hourly employees?
They're hourly employees.
Okay, so it's my ask of you, this isn't the first store you guys have opened up in Nebraska or Omaha, that make a note to yourself to reach out to the neighbors. I mean, you said you'll look up, I don't know when you're gonna do it, but it bothers me greatly that, okay, we're a national store, we come in, and we don't know who the neighborhood associations are, that's fine. You're gonna send a letter to the property owner that's 5 feet over your fence, it looks terrible, and you're gonna hope that you get a work order to remove it. I hope it's done sooner rather than later, because that isn't a good look for your store. And again, you can't control who's gonna come dump garbage, but you sure can control, it's not on my property, that's great. Reach out to the property owners. When are you gonna send those letters to the property owners that own that property? How do you go through that process?
Well, I did not become aware of the issue with the sofa until last week. And so we've moved forward with that with the holidays. We're going to go back and look, notices get sent out to all property owners within 500 feet of this hearing, as well as postings. So we should be able to determine who that is and also the appropriate neighborhood association in the very near future. We certainly want to address this problem. It's an issue that we don't want to have associated with us in any way, and we want to benefit the neighborhood and our employees who work there every day.
Mr. Bailey, I appreciate that, and I got your email, I got your office and cell phone. I want to keep it, not because I want to harass you. I want you guys to succeed, but I want you to be good partners and stewards of the neighborhoods. They're working their butts off down there. It's called Little Bohemia. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's the name of the neighborhood. It's Dolman and Lynch Park are the neighborhood associations. And I already told you my Olson's Bakery, free advertisement.
Right.
I go there every day that it's not, unless it's closed. I'll be going by this store, and there are several in my district. I want to let you know if I'm seeing things down there, I'm calling you directly, because I think you will care, and you're going to make sure, and not blaming the employees that are working their butts off at that store, the dignity of those workers. Whatever process you got set up corporately, I got your information. I want to look forward. Hopefully I don't got to talk to you again. But if I do, we're going to have a good relationship, and I think you know what my expectations are.
Yes, Councilman, and just for your edification, when we got that instruction last week, I immediately got off the phone and sent a company-wide to all the people who touched this process email and directed the district manager to go out there and take pictures of all the locations that were involved. And so we take it seriously. I'm happy to provide, you already have mine, but also the district manager's contact info who are there on the ground in Omaha, and we will address it immediately if it's not already addressed.
Thanks, Mr. Bailey. Thanks, Ms. Melton.
Thank you. And if I could just add something, if there's private property next door to you, and this goes for anybody, if somebody dumps a couch on the property next to you, you can call the city, make a complaint that goes to weeds and litter. One of our inspectors will go out, provide notice, and then the city will actually remove it, and we will, as part of our other job as council members, when we sit as the Board of Equalization, we will assess the property owner for having to remove that. So sometimes that's the easiest way to go about it. If you don't know who is next door, you can always make that complaint to the city, and that goes for everybody. So I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion? And I might want to just remind everyone, it does take 4 votes to pass anything today, just because there are only 5 council members here. It takes 4 votes because that's the majority of the 7-member council. So it does take 4 votes to pass. Oh, and we are doing individual votes on each of these. So we'll start with 26. And Councilmember Begley, sorry, the floor
Thanks,
is yours.
Ms. Melton. I would make a motion to amend this because I think, correct me, Madam Clerk, last week, they said they would have a stipulation that no sales of single containers less than 32 ounces of beer. Is that correct? Was that on the record last week? Or would I have to do an amendment on that today?
You would have to amend it.
Okay, so I would make a motion to amend item 26 with the stipulation that there is no sales of single containers less than 32 ounces of beer.
I will second that. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Harding.
So Mr. Bali has a chance to confirm that. Mr. Bali, are you agreeable to the amendment that's been proposed?
Can you hear? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I am in agreement. And for the record, to save time on the remaining 3, we also would agree on those.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's been a motion and a second. Roll call. And this is the motion to amend.
Correct. Harding. Johnson. Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Do we need to do a motion as amended?
Yes.
Councilmember Begley.
Motion as amended.
Second.
Harding. Johnson. Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
All right. We've held the public hearing on items number 26 through 29. Public hearing's been closed. And any lights? Oh, and Councilwoman Johnson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Madam, I thought we were voting on these individually.
We did. We just voted on 26.
Okay.
So now we're on 27.
Okay.
And the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Item 27 is at the address of 2601 North 16th Street. I'm going to have to go in again, vote against this because it is not a good fit for that district, for that community. I don't know if any of the council members have paid any attention over the past 2 months. Several of our clergy in the community have come to this body, sent letters, made testimony that there is an overall concern about the impact of alcohol and the surge of alcohol being sold it's oversaturated in the North Omaha community. The clergy in North Omaha made an appeal to this body that they would consider not authorizing any additional new license for liquor in District 2. So that's one concern that I have, is that there's an overall concern regarding the clergy members in District 2 that are not in favor of issuing new liquor license. Number 2, I agree with Mr. Strong. I think Family Dollar needs to be mindful of this underserved community, which District 2 is. We have an overwhelming body of homeless individuals. We have people that are not able to even make ends meet and also feed their families. And yet you're going to add an additional twist into this. I just don't think that overall this is good for this community to add additional liquor license when there is a sufficient amount already in play. As for the Family Dollar in terms of them being neighborly and assisting with communication on a neighborhood level, I can attest to that's not exactly true. It is very hard in this community to get a hold of anyone at Family Dollar to address issues when they come up. Neighborhood associations go inside the store, make complaints regarding the overall upkeep of the facility, and even go as far as contacting the corporate office. And it is very difficult for them to respond to the needs of the neighborhood. So for those various reasons, I'm going to have to deny this request for number 27.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion to
Second.
deny.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Number 28, are there any lights? The public hearing was closed. We did 26 again through 29 together. Do we have any motions?
Motion to approve with the stipulation that we already passed, correct?
No, you have to do it separate. So I need you to do a motion to amend and then motion as amended.
So, what are we on, 28?
This is 28, yes.
Okay, number 28, a motion to amend with the stipulation, there's no sales of single containers less than 32 ounces of beer, please.
Roll call?
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
And 29.
Nope, 28 as amended.
Oh, I apologize, as amended.
Yes. Second.
Now roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Now I'm moving to 29. The public hearing has been closed. Are there any lights? Oh, Councilmember Johnson, the floor is yours.
Number 29, I'm going to motion to deny this. Same reasons as the item 27. This is going to be very harmful for this community.
Second.
Roll call?
Harding.
This is on motion to deny.
Correct. Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
No.
Motion fails 3-2.
Point of clarification.
No, correct. So then we can do, so point of clarification, we can do a vote to approve, and if that fails as well, it just goes down to the Liquor Commission as a no recommendation.
It's my understanding that we'd have to have a 4 vote in order for
Correct.
something. Okay.
So if it's not denied and it's not approved, it just goes to the Liquor Commission with no recommendation.
Sorry. And then at that time, they can do whatever they want, regardless of what
Well,
we.
and they actually, even if,
Yeah.
even on the denial, the Liquor Commission can still do what we want. We are just a recommending
Right, no,
body.
understood.
So we can recommend denial. The difference is whether or not whether our lawyer goes down to defend it or not. If it just goes down with a no recommendation, then our lawyer is not required to go down there.
Okay. Thank you.
So again, the Liquor Commission, we're just a recommending body. They can ignore us whenever they want. So at this point, the motion to deny failed.
I have a light on.
Councilmember Harding.
Have your language for the amendment. So I'm going to make an amendment with the stipulation that there be no sales of single containers less than 32 ounces of beer.
I'll second that. Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson. Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion fails 3-2.
So now we don't have the stipulation.
The stipulation, so.
Probably wanted the stipulation for the Liquor Commission.
So just so we have a complete story here, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
What do you make a motion to approve?
As it was presented without stipulation.
Because, yeah, the stipulation was denied by the council here.
Which would have been nice to have go down with the stipulation.
Yeah, because again, the Liquor Commission can do whatever they want. Now they don't have the stipulation on there from us. Okay, I think there was a motion and a second. Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
No.
Rowe.
No.
Bagley.
No.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion fails 2-3. Item 30, to consider a Class I liquor license for Tupelo Honey Southern Kitchen and Bar located at 830 Harney Street.
Hi, council members. My name is Margaret Rossiter, 500 Energy Plaza.
Thank you.
Fraser-
And just,
sorry.
just 1 second. I just need to open the public hearing.
sorry.
And now I'm going to ask for proponents, and now the floor is yours.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I'll repeat that. Margaret Rossiter, 500 Energy Plaza. Fraser Stryker were the attorneys for the applicant Tupelo Honey. I'm happy to give an overview of the restaurant and its history. Otherwise, I'm here to answer any questions as well.
All right, thank you. Are there any, would you like to give a history, or do you want to just answer any questions and we'll call you back up if later?
The
if
latter's
needed?
great.
All right, are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Seeing none? No lights? Is there a motion? Roll call.
Harding. Johnson. Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 31, to consider a Class C liquor license for North Omaha Music and Arts located at 2510 North 24th Street.
The public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents? And actually, Mr. Wiesen, I think something came up between now and our 10:30 meeting that I would ask that you clarify before anybody else come up.
Ryan Wiesen, Assistant City Attorney. Before the proponents and opponents speak, I'd like to provide a little bit of an introduction to this item. After some questions were asked this morning about this application at pre-council, it's my understanding that the Planning Department reviewed the purchase agreement of the subject property and realized that the sale of the property has not actually closed yet, so that the city still owns this property. This was discovered shortly after 11 o'clock, at which time I was informed. And this now presents an issue under the Nebraska Liquor Control Act, specifically Nebraska Revised Statute 53-125. And that statute provides a list of persons to whom no license can be issued. And in that list, it is included that you cannot have a liquor license if you do not own the subject property of the licensed premise, or if you do not have a lease agreement for the entire duration of the liquor license. After this was discovered, I was asked to contact the applicant and discuss possible paths forward or just ramifications of this discovery. And I was informed by the applicant that he believes that the property transaction will close on January 1st. I relayed this information to the Planning Department, but in the 3 hours between the end of pre-council and the beginning of council, it's my understanding that they were not able to verify this information. This essentially provides a couple of options for the council to consider going forward. If the council were to vote to approve this liquor license recommendation, they would be recommending a license that would be prohibited by the Nebraska Liquor Control Act. They would be recommending a license for a prohibited person, and it could not go forward at the commission. there is the possibility that the council could send it back to the commission with no recommendation. This essentially puts it in the commission's hands to evaluate the situation at the time that they consider the license and determine whether or not it is permitted to be issued under Nebraska law. If the transaction, if the property is actually to close on January 1st, this may be preferable for the applicant because there's no way that the Liquor Control Commission will consider this application prior to that date. And so then the issue that would prohibit the council from recommending approval of license today would be gone. It wouldn't be an issue anymore by the time that the Liquor Control Commission gets it. Although again, the planning department was not able to verify that that is going to be the actual closing date. So that's kind of an unknown question at this point. The applicant could also choose to withdraw the application at this time, wait until the purchase agreement closes, and then reapply at that time, and this issue goes away. The council could also recommend denial of the license, as it always has that option to do. I would only suggest that if the council were to recommend denial of the license, while it can include this as a reason for denial, it should also base that denial recommendation on other factors in the Liquor Control Act, so that if I go down to Lincoln to oppose the license and the property is closed by then, I have something to argue. That's my brief introduction to kind of the issue that was uncovered this morning. I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has it after the public hearing.
Thank you. I have one comment there. This is a class. Could you just explain Class C? This is a Class C liquor license request?
Yes, it's my understanding that this application is a Class C liquor license for the sale of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises.
Okay. It's for sale on and off the premise.
Consumption on and off the premise, yes.
Okay. Where most of our liquor licenses are, would they be Class A's for on premise?
I can't specify, whether most of them are, but under the classes of licenses, a Class A would be beer only for consumption on the premises. A Class B would be beer only for consumption off premises, the Family Dollar ones that the council just considered. Class C is consumption on and off the premises. Class D is consumption off the premises, as is a Class I licenses alcoholic liquor, including beer, for consumption on the premises only.
Thank you. And I thought that was important to make sure we knew that, had that qualification.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna have to let proponents and opponents, unless you have a specific question. Council Member Harding. Okay.
Louise, what I think I didn't hear in there, I want to be clear, is that one of our options is not to lay over, and I'm assuming because the application that's in front of us today would not have enough time. Is that?
That is correct. We did
correct?
check with the city clerk's office if that was a possibility. Because of the Christmas and New Year's holidays, we run out of the 45-day time for the city council.
So that
to
is
consider
not
it.
one of the options that we would have.
A layover is not. If you
I
try
wanna
to
make
lay it
sure.
over, it will go down as a no recommendation at the expiration of that 45-day period.
Okay. So we could be passive or we could be active in the sense that if we did make a motion to lay it over, it would just go down without the recommendation, or we could also make a motion to send it down without a recommendation.
Essentially, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Now we're gonna have, the public hearing is open, and I'd like to call up any proponents.
Good afternoon. Dana Murray, 2510 North 24th Street, Executive Director, North Omaha Music and Arts. I'm going to clarify first. First of all, hello everybody. I want to clarify we were told to do that type of liquor license because we do our Noma Fest, our outdoor festival. So that was the one. I didn't know anything about any of them. So that was the one that was recommended for our uses for our outdoor festival. So other than that, you obviously all know the program, the mission. We are a Music and Art Academy with a performance venue. We will also be an event space. With the technicality, I guess I'm going to take your recommendations at this time. I don't really know where we should have been closed by now, but I can't make anything go any faster than it is. So this is where we are.
Okay, thank you. And then are you available for any questions or to be called up by other council members
Yes.
later?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Are there any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents?
Cheryl Weston, 1811 Emmett Street, Omaha, Nebraska. Haven't seen you guys for a while. I'm here because I feel that and I have nothing against Mr. Murray's program because I supported it each time it came before the planning board. I supported it when it came here. I supported it when you had comments for public. But I don't feel that the liquor license should be granted or sent down with a recommendation. It should be totally denied. I think it should be waited. He should wait because what he set forth, and you can go to the website and you can hear what he has to say, this was supposed to be for children and classes and educating our youth, and I don't feel like that's been done. And unless that's done, I don't feel that the ideal of having a liquor license. Why is this liquor license so important right now? I've been watching, you can watch on Facebook, all of the activities that have been in, and I've only seen one that dealt with the youth and children. So I'm disappointed in Mr. Murray, is because he's asking for a liquor license, and that's not what we really need in North Omaha, just as we talked about, Ms. Johnson pointed out, regarding Family Dollar. If you're gonna have this liquor license, are youth gonna be there? I don't think so. You set this up. Every time you have come before you, this board, every time he's been on television, everything has been, and I can, to support that, June 1st, public comment for, no, do I have it? Yeah. The city of Omaha was excited and proud to be a partner with the North Omaha Music. Dana Murray and his team have this tremendous vision for the center as a music and arts education performance venue. At that same time, he says, I don't want to miss the opportunity to reach one kid. He testified during the public hearing on Tuesday. This academy, as he was speaking in the council chambers, he referenced a meeting last night as a key reason why NOMA is needed. Right after it was over, we stepped outside to hear gunshots in the background, referencing 3 people who were shot at 33rd and Parker Street. That's why NOMA should give kids something else to do. As we try to teach our kids, they don't have a problem with how and what. A kid could be a surgeon on YouTube if they were driven, but why is a problem. These are his words. How is getting a liquor license, and all you've done so far is have all these adult activities, and now to have a liquor license, you are going to have more adult activities. That's what I'm opposed, reason why. If down the road, and you come to have that need to have that liquor license, I could say yes. But I don't see where that great need is, and he hasn't explained why he needs to have it now. Also, Mr. Murray said, as the executive director, I plan to reach out and inspire the next generation. The next generation would be youth. It's not adults that are going to be having drinking and so forth. That's not the young people. That's what this is supposed to be. Mr. Murray went on to say education will be a big part of the academy. There will be classes teaching that next chapter of North Omaha's music history. When I looked at in his application on page 38 that's in your packet, and it listed the activities that will occur on these premises: music entertainment, bar to serve the music venue, music jam sessions serving the local community, concerts by local artists, fundraising events, business activities to run the NOMA organization, and event space for rental. Only there was cafe to serve coffee, food, snacks for students and locals, master classes for world-class artists, and students' music lessons. Those were down at the bottom. I believe that Mr. Murray should get back to what he presented to you and the community and those people who supported him and are still supporting him. There's no need for a liquor license now because you have not fulfilled the commitment that you made when you stood before this board. I think that however it is, I know he went through that description, and I'm not real clear as to what you can do, other than I don't think it's appropriate to go send this down with any recommendations for licensing at this time. Not against it later on, but I think he should fulfill his commitment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilwoman Johnson, floor is yours. Oh, I'm sorry, is there an opponent that I didn't see?
I missed the opportunity to.
Oh, no, we'll reopen the public hearing.
Okay,
Are there any other opponents? I'll call them, I just couldn't see you.
I'm a proponent.
I'll get her.
Okay.
Oh, we're on opponents, sorry. Okay, are there any other opponents that I can see or not see? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And Councilmember Johnson, you had your light on first.
Thank you. Mr. Murray, if you could come up for a moment, please. Thank you. We had a conversation earlier in which I was a little bit surprised that you would ask that we would make the decision. I thought that we would, given the fact that I had shared with you the concerns that basically Ms. Weston pretty much recaptured some of the concerns that we were talking about earlier today, and we agreed that you would respectfully withdraw the application at this time. I thought that that's what you were going to do today.
My reason for agreeing to withdraw it were more procedural,
Okay.
as I explained. If this procedural event is going to push it back anyway, then it doesn't really matter. We're not really using it right now. And respectfully to the agenda at hand, what was presented was exactly what I'm doing. It is the Music Academy. That is the primary function of it. But what goes hand in hand with that is an event space, is entertainment. And we've done just that.
And I guess for a city council representative, you would come off a lot more favorable in our community if you would consider withdrawing this application and getting more engagement in the community to educate what you're doing and the need for the liquor license and all of those things, since obviously where we're at today, it really doesn't matter. So I think for the best interest of our community.
Well, it's hard for me to take that and just say, okay, because what I do in that community, not I, what we, the organization NOMA does in that community, as far as engagement, as far as having events, is having things that are for the youth, like our Monday night jam session, our Tuesday night jam session, partnering with organizations like Opera Omaha to bring the cast of X to come down and do master classes. We do a whole lot in that community for not even actually literally being in the building yet. So I would push back on that. Number two, it seems that the communication is always reactive. And what I mean by that is we submitted this a while ago, and I've tried to get meetings with you a couple times. A couple times I've showed up and you have not showed up. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. right? And as far as communicating to the community, we do a very good job of that. Outside of that, I think that is your job as the city councilwoman, right? So, respectfully, I agree with everything you're saying, but I would push back uh, if there's any thing that would sort of lead someone to believe that we're not doing all that we can to ingratiate our organization to the community on a lot of levels. And I think the community has been reached out to, and they have agreed with that.
Mr. Murray, I'm going to answer the question that you said
Sure.
that you reached out to me twice. The
Sure.
first time that you reached out to me, there was a miscommunication regarding me knowing that you were scheduled. The second time, which was yesterday, I called into this office and you were notified that I was not able to make it. It was raining outside and I was scared to travel with evening falling and the possibility of ice. And I shared that with City Council staff and asked for you to give me a phone call so that we could discuss this.
I think that.
So again, I'm going to say to you that as far as public outreach is concerned, there are neighborhood associations in that area that I know for a fact that you have not reached out to. You have not reached out to them. And I was trying to avoid all of this by you simply taking a step back and educating the community so that you would be more marketable in this great, exciting structure that you present with this arts program. This is not a good way to start off as a new neighbor in the neighborhood and over a liquor license?
Councilwoman Johnson, respectfully, again, our monthly meeting that was generated by you and your staff reached out to me and asked me if I would have a monthly meeting. I agreed to that. That was a great idea.
Right.
I showed up to them 2 times. 2 times you did not show up.
And again, the second time that you came, which was yesterday.
I think I'm going to ask both parties, let's stick to the liquor license at hand and
the
maybe.
second time you were to come, which was yesterday, I've explained to you that I called, you were here, you were asked to give me a call. You did not. I gave you a call. You did not answer the phone.
I'll move on if you want to. I'm just trying to paint context as to why.
We're going to clear this up because I asked you nicely what would be best for the community to resolve this. And you are aware that the clergy in this community are concerned about new liquor license, which I also shared with you. And I simply asked you to not to withdraw this so that we could have time in our community to talk about this. And now to act as though that conversation has not taken place when it did.
I'm simply stating this, all right, and then I can move on, right? I have carried myself with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
I think my reputation precedes itself by I do what I say. Okay. I'm not up here trying to fool anyone. Okay. I presented something with NOMA that to all of you made perfect sense. All of the moving parts of that, much like Omaha Performing Arts, right? How you can go there and they have a liquor license for the agenda. We're not a bar. We're in the area of entertainment and event space.
So is this the way you want to start your relationship?
I've started off my relationship with the community very well. I think your opinion of it, of that, I don't think everyone shares that. Okay. I meet people on the ground every single week from that community. Mm-hmm. We have 40, 60 people on a Monday or Tuesday night every single week for the past 2.5 months since you guys okayed the sale of the building. We're engaging the space without actually being in the space. That's me showing the community, listen, I'm doing what I'm saying, right? It is not out of the ordinary to want a liquor license for this agenda. If we're going to have a restaurant, if we're going to have a 450-seat music venue, if we're going to be an event space, which all, mind you, was motivated by me getting my boots on the ground and meeting with the mayor and her saying, how far can you go with this? I think the agenda needs to be bigger. I didn't come in saying, hey, let's do an event space. Those were all things that were communicated to me that were needed in order to create economic stimulus. So I don't know what else to say about that. This is very much in line with anyone that has a $17.5 million capital campaign for what they're doing.
Well, what's before us now is this liquor license. And
Okay.
as the lawyer just spoke, we can either withdraw this application.
That's why I said I will take your recommendation.
So I recommend that we withdraw this application at this time.
You have to either do a denial or a no recommendation. Only the applicant can withdraw. So yours has to be a denial or a no recommendation.
Can you come back up front and give us our options again, please?
Ryan Weeson, Assistant City Attorney. The council, as the local governing body, always has three options. Essentially, under the Liquor Control Act, the council can recommend approval, the council can recommend denial, the council can take no action, and a recommendation of no action or no recommendation can be returned to the Liquor Control Commission. At any point in the process, an applicant, whether that process is still at the Liquor Control Commission, whether the application has been forwarded to the local governing body, in this case the City Council, or whether the application has been recommended for approval or denial and returned to the Liquor Control Commission, at any point in that time, the applicant can voluntarily choose to withdraw the application. But the council itself cannot force an applicant to withdraw their application.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. So I move to deny this application.
All right, there's still further lights. Councilmember Harding, you have the floor.
Before I make my comments, I mean, there's been a motion. If someone wants to second that, they certainly can before I make my comments. And if not, then it dies for lack of a second.
That's correct. So I think there's no second, so the motion's failed.
All right, thank you. Ryan, can I have you come up first, please? I think when Mr. Murray was first up, he explained his notion, or what he thought was the proper license that he should be applying for. After hearing what his intended use might be, what class would you suggest that it be?
Ryan Weeson, Assistant City Attorney. I don't know that I would prefer not to recommend certain classes of license. I think if the council were to be concerned about the sale of beer and alcoholic liquor for consumption off premise, if the purpose of the license is to do on-premise consumption and then also to periodically maybe have a music festival or something, I'll check with the city clerk, but I think you could do a Class I license with a special designated license on those festival days that would allow for that type of consumption to occur.
So Class I with special designation?
Correct. And the Class I would be today.
I don't have to add this, okay.
But at the times when the festival would want to occur, or perhaps other events, then the applicant could apply for a special designated license for those time periods.
And having the Class I would give them the ability to do that.
Yes.
And I believe you're limited to the number of special designations per year?
Yeah.
To 6?
Unless they got a catering.
Okay.
Which they could apply
Which
for at a
they could
later
apply
time.
to at a later point in time. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weason. Dana, before I call you up, I don't know if you, I don't know your name, but you looked like you had something to say on the proponents, but didn't get a chance to at the time.
Yes, sir. I debated. My name is Carolee Picard. I'm with NOMA 2510 North 24th Street, Omaha. I am Dana's Chief of Staff People Operations Officer, so I had a few comments that I think would be relevant. We are starting programming of education February 1st. It's taken us quite a lot of time to get the staff up and running. And mind you, we are all volunteers. That's not one person is being paid yet, including Dana. So we are getting the programming for education up and running. We are expecting to start on February 1st. So that is in the program. The other thing is that in the jam sessions that we hold twice a week, we have a lot of musicians, of course, that come to play, but we also have non-musicians that come to enjoy the music. And up until this point, all of those sessions have been free. But in the new year, we plan to charge a small fee for non-musicians. And we believe that we will be able to get more people to come in and enjoy the music of the new and up-and-coming artists if there's an offer of having a drink while they're enjoying this music. These artists deserve to have an audience, local people who can cheer them on to encourage them to keep growing. And we think that the liquor license would help in that.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Dana, if you have I think you actually, in some of your responses to earlier questions, kind of covered what I was going to. I mean, I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about your mission, what you plan to do. I mean, I think I made a comment earlier that I think you actually almost brought the chairman of the planning board to tears when you were talking about your outreach and your mission and your hopes and dreams for what this facility could be.
Right.
So I won't have you rehash what, because I think you did answer it in some responses to Councilmember Johnson, and I applaud you for your efforts. And I mean, look, I know it's a huge capital investment that you're planning on, and I look at it as no different than, you go to Jocelyn for, I think Bagels and Bach, well, it's closed right now, but I mean, you could go to arts, whether it be music or visual arts or and have an ability to have something to a cocktail or a drink while you're enjoying that, and I know that's kind of been what your overall plan was to begin with anyway. So I don't see this as any different than what you originally set out to do, and I think what you're doing is incredibly commendable and in an area that greatly deserves it.
Thank you.
So I think the first thing I'm going to do is make an amendment to a Class I liquor license. So I'll move to make an amendment to, hold on, I'm getting a signal from the law department, so let me ask Mr. Wiesen to come up. Thanks, Dan.
Ryan Wiesen, Assistant City Attorney. The council also cannot force an applicant to amend their application, so the council could request the applicant to agree to that amendment, but the council cannot on its own, without the applicant's consent, amend an application class at this time.
Thank you. I got a little ahead of myself. Dana, may I have you come back up, please? Would you agree to a Class I liquor license if I were to amend it as
Yes.
such? All right. Thank you. So hearing that from the applicant, I will make a motion to amend to a Class I liquor license.
Second. See, we have another light, Councilmember Johnson.
Well, we have
a motion and a second.
and
Would
a
you like
second.
us to vote before
Yeah,
I saw your light on, I didn't want to vote, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak first.
that's fine.
Okay, roll call.
Harding. Yes. Johnson.
Yes. Oh,
Johnson.
No.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-1.
And then my second motion would then be, and again, Dana, understanding that we're limited on what we can do, and if you think if you're willing to, I'll say put at risk whether or not this closes on January 1st, which would still be in time before the Liquor Commission would take it up. So I can't make a motion to approve, as you understand. I'm not going to make a motion to deny. So I will make a recommendation to send to the Liquor Commission with no recommendation.
Okay.
And I'll second that for the same reasons. No further lights, roll call. Well, I'm not sure. Councilmember Johnson,
I'm
did
waiting
you?
till you guys are done.
This is going to close. Once we vote on this, you won't be able to speak on the matter anymore. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, I would like to speak.
Okay, the floor is yours.
I just would like to bring it to the attention of this body that this past summer we talked about the motorcycle club located at 24th and Ames, and the fact that we were so concerned about its activities. And now we are introducing a liquor license on 24th Street once again. So I would just like to say that this needs to be put on the record, that this just makes it looks like, it appears, that we are picking on the motorcycle club when we make comments about the things that they do or not do. Because clearly selling alcohol in North Omaha is not a point that we're concerned about. We're concerned about the social club, the motorcycle club. And I would hope that at 24th and Lake, that when Mr. Mary's business is closed, that there is no shootings located at 24th then Lake, whereby you can be consistent in the charge that is made against that social club, that it is related to that social club being open. So I just want that to be on the record, that we're setting a trend here and we're working down a slippery slope about the actions and the choices that we're making today. Thank you.
Councilmember Harding, you have your light on.
Couldn't disagree more. These are two totally separate issues. Mr. Murray is here with an official request for a liquor license. I don't believe the group that was just referenced has ever applied for a liquor license. They are a bottle club. These are two totally different issues, and to try to confuse the situation by raising that, I think is unfair to Mr. Murray and the process that he is going through. He's made a request for a liquor license. We're here to consider that and not any other matter that is not even germane, or it's a complete apples to oranges comparison.
Thank you. And Ms. Johnson, is your light still on, or did you wish? Okay, then the floor is yours.
You're respectfully, Mr. Harding, I respectfully disagree with you. This is in our community where we have individuals that are scrambling once again for money to buy food on their table, and we are bringing about alcohol into this community. We have several clergies that are in our community that have asked repeatedly of this body not to introduce new liquor license. What I asked for this body today was for the opportunity to go back into the community and have a talk, have a discussion, work together as a community so that we can do the necessary things to help educate, help mitigate some of the problems that could occur. Yes, what Mr. Murray is offering is great. Yes, possibility of serving alcohol here is also great. All was asked today of this body was to respect the community and the fact that they had asked that there would be no additional new liquor license issued in this community for the safety of the community. That was what was asked. And we couldn't do that. We don't have a social conscience about community. And for all of us in this room who are not dealing with that community, it's very nice to sit and make decisions for this community when you're not there every day. You're not understanding the social ramification of this dysfunction about how we are communicating in the community about new liquor license in the community and its impact on people in that community. Thank you for listening. Thank you for voting for something that will cause harm in this community.
Councilmember Harding, your light's on.
Tell you what, I would much rather have Mr. Murray and his organization making a formal application for a liquor license rather than try to run it as a bottle club. And if we want to have that consideration, have the motorcycle club make a liquor license application.
Thank you. And I just want to make a comment that it sounds to me, Mr. Murray, like you are there every day. You are a member of the community. And so I am listening to you. And I'm listening, and by the way, other members of the community who support you because you're not doing this alone, although it seems like you're doing a lot of work. I think you are fortunate that you have the support of the community and those that are there every day. And I appreciate the work that you're doing. So thank you very much. And with that, I believe there is a motion and a second. Oh, I'm sorry, there's more lights. Mr. Councilman Rowe, your light was on.
Yeah, thank you. I've listened to this and understand the ramifications, but I too think there's a clear, distinct difference between selling packaged liquor at a liquor store in North Omaha as compared to an entertainment venue, whether it be a restaurant or an event center like Mr. Murray's going to do. So I think there's a clear distinction between the two, and I think I heard that from the clergy. I'm not sure if they were here today. I guess I can't put words in their mouth, so I won't say it. Sorry.
Well, they're not here today. Councilwoman Johnson, you're really done.
Mr. Murray, could you please tell this body your address, please?
2510 North 24th Street.
Your physical.
Where I live?
Yeah, where you live.
8201 Molokai Drive, Papillion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see no further lights. There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Harding. Johnson.
No.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-1. Item 32, to consider a Class A liquor license for Flying Timber Axe Throwing located at 1507 Farnham Street.
The public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents? Is that on Zoom? Oh, they're there. Hi.
Hello, I'm Ursula Fienhold, 1812 South 175th Ave. I'm representing Tomahawk Chop, doing business as Flying Timber at 1507 Farnham.
Thank you.
And I'm
you're
here to answer questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Are there any other proponents? Seeing none. Are there any opponents? Seeing none. Public hearing's closed. There's no lights. Is there a motion? Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
No.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-1. Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
The public hearing on agenda items 33 through 46 was held on December 13th, 2022. Do we have a motion? Second. Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Johnson.
No.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-1.
The public hearings on agenda items 47 through 59 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by your name, address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent.
Larry Storer, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I'm opposed to number 58. I think that's 58. Yeah. National League of Cities seem being to have more power than the citizens that want to come here and address their elected ones. $22,084 would go a long ways towards affordable housing here in Omaha, or towards some of the nonprofits that need more food to pass out, or a handout. Might even help me with my property taxes. I don't know why we pay you to travel to listen to somebody that's a nonprofit organization on a national basis. You shake your head, but I didn't authorize the city to spend money listening to somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to make a clarification that council members pay for their own travel, and that's been that way since I came onto council. Are there any other proponents or opponents? Come on down.
We're Agenda 48. My name is Nancy Duque. I'm coming from the Wyndham, Omaha, 655 North 1/8th Avenue, Omaha, 68154.
Thank you. And you're here as a proponent of 48?
Yes.
Oh.
Of the Wyndham.
47.
Oh, the thing says 48, sorry. Oh, it changed? Oh, sorry, yeah, but 47, sorry.
I was going to say, I think I have the wrong copy too, so.
Yeah, because mine says 48.
I was confusing you as well,
Yeah,
yes.
no, but mine says 48 as well, so I was like, oh.
All right, and are you here for any questions that any of the council members may have?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any other proponents or opponents for items number 47 through 59? Seeing none, is there a motion? I will second. Roll call.
Harding. Johnson. Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-1. Item 60, an ordinance to approve the Dizzy Mule Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement. A's amendment of the whole requested by the Planning Department.
There's no, we've already had a public hearing. Is there a motion on the amendment of the whole? Second, roll call.
Harding. Johnson. Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 61, an ordinance to approve a 10-year interlocal agreement with Douglas County for the Omaha Convention and Visitors Bureau. A's amendment of the whole requested by the Law Department.
Thank you. We're going to open the public hearing. Are there any proponents?
Save the best for last. Deborah Ward with the Omaha Convention and Visitors Bureau, 306 South 10th Street. I'm a proponent. The interlocal partnership between the county and the city has created a very successful, stable, and effective funding mechanism for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. The reason this partnership works so well is that the city's general fund dollars provide a set amount of money for what we use for our operations, our staff, and our office expenses, protecting us from economic risks such as a pandemic, while the lodging and the hotel occupancy tax provides performance-based funding for our programming, our marketing, our advertising, our promotion, our sales efforts, things that can be more easily adjusted if revenues come in lower or even higher than expected. Sort of an overview of the 10-year interlocal agreement. The current interlocal agreement is still in effect until December 31st of 2023. The reason that we are asking you to renew it now is due to the fact that, as you know, we start preparing for the 2024 budget in a couple of months. The city in this agreement is agreeing to increase the general fund contribution, which in 2023 is $2.2 million, by $100,000 per year for the first 5 years, which grows the contribution to $2.7 million. The following 5 years, it will remain at $2.5 0.7 million per year. The city also provides the CVB with 0.5%, 0.5% of the city's hotel occupancy tax. The county agrees to continue to provide the CVB with the 2% of the lodging tax that they collect for visitor promotion. The county board voted unanimously last week to approve this interlocal agreement. The agreement will run from 2024 to 2033. Can you believe that? And the agreement you'll be voting on next meeting will take effect January 1st, 2024. This is a partnership between the city and the county that we feel really works, so we would appreciate your support. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any other proponents for item number 61? Seeing none, are there any opponents?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I oppose this. I want to remind the council what happened during the pandemic, and that was very unfortunate. The pandemic had an negative impact on the local economy. If Omaha is going to put a lot of energy in tourism, that's one thing, but we have to remember that when there's bad decisions that are made and a pandemic comes in, tourism isn't going to be there, isn't a reliable source of economic impact. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is that I'd like to see the council supporting smaller organizations, because small organizations like what's happening on North 24th Street do bring tourism dollars to Omaha. So I think that not only does the county, but also the city, you guys need to focus on small organizations just as much as you focus on large projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Oh, I apologize. Councilman Harding, you have your light on.
Question or two. Sure. Would this interlocal agreement help us in pursuing and getting events like what was just announced with the college baseball Night of Champions?
We pursue lots of different
but I mean something like what was just announced last week. I mean this
provides stability for our organization. We're typically booking or bringing in and securing events 3 to 5 years out. If we don't have the funding to help secure that, we don't have the funding to do our job.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more lights? Seeing none.
Non-action items, items 62 through 85, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and/or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on agenda for consideration.
Second, roll call.
Harding. Johnson.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Meeting is adjourned at 4:38.